When you come to Joburg, having the roof over your head must be the first priority, because you know when you don't have a proper place to stay, it will affect you everywhere, whether at school, whether at work.
I think that housing is one of the necessities of life. You know, I mean, food and water, you cannot go without it. Housing, yeah, you can go without it, but it doesn't build any dignity. So you can stay in a shack or you can stay under the bridge and you will probably live, but there's no dignity attached to it. And dignity comes when people acknowledge you, when you are part of something, when you can go out of your home and you clean. You know, you've got running water, you've got electricity, those kind of things. When you take somebody's home away, you really take a big part of him away.
For me to have a secure home, it gives me that sense of dignity, that sense of peace, you know, because being on the street, you are vulnerable and people feel pity for you.
Madlumo was established out of an exit strategy program for MES, which was then Metro Evangelical Services. They're also not-for-profit companies, been here in Hillbrow for 25 years looking at welfare, a Christian organization. I was working for them, and we developed a program where we could take people off the street, put them through training, put them into jobs, have a follow-up program with them while they're in their jobs, and then there was a sustainable exit. A couple of years after the program was launched, I found some of the boys that I've trained back onto the street, and we couldn't understand, so we did a bit of research, and we found that one of the main reasons is, although they went into jobs, the main reason was they didn't have accommodation. So they went back to stay with their friends, maybe in a dilapidated building, maybe in a shack somewhere, and there was a process that started all over with drugs and etc. So we said, well, let's go and find accommodation, and we looked in the city and we couldn't find accommodation for the entry-level workers. And so in 2005 we decided, well, if we can't find it, let's go and build it. And we then established Madlumo Housing Association. And it was an exciting time for us, because we're actually now building on a model where we can really exit people into a sustainable environment. And that's how Madlumo came, and that's where my passion for it started to grow for housing.
I started working with homeless people on the streets of Rosebank going back to 1995. You know, started with the soup kitchen and then started working with homeless people. Then I was running the Johannesburg Trust for the Homeless. That was 6 or 7 years. You know, where I was running a shelter downtown in Cornelia Street. And then I kind of felt like God brought Renee and I together to do this new venture, you know, which is to roll out a lot of good quality, affordable stock within the Hillbrow area.
The exposed nature of street life inevitably leaves the homeless vulnerable to many dangers. For Mandla, his route to surviving these pitfalls had 2 key milestones: finding relationships of trust and calling out to God for help.
Hillbrow sometimes swallow the vulnerable. Hillbrow swallows those that cannot make it. And at the end of the day, you'll find people dying without their families knowing that their relatives have passed away.
We will move as a crew. That was one thing. As a street person living and sleeping on the street, you'll always move in groups back then, because once you're by yourself, you're a target. You're a target to thieves, yeah? Because most thieves knew that once you're a homeless person, you are bound to have money, you know, because everybody feels sorry for you. They give you coins, they give you 20 rand, 50 rand, whatever, you know.
Xa ndifika la ndaye ndingazani namntu. Abantu ndafika la kuba bandibiza nje ama-oleti, abantwana abahlala esitratweni. Ndixakekile ukuthi ndizokuncedwa ngubani, or xa ndiye shop ndifuna something ke. Bakhala nje ama-oleti ayisokunceda ama-oleti indawo ezininzi siyazazi. Eish, abantwana ndibathembanga. Ndibanike i-20 rand, hambe uyothenga ubisi. Ndibanike i-50 rand, hambe uyothenga ama-takeaway. Hayi babuye ne-change ne-slip. Still kuze kwangoku bendithi mandifuna ufakela umntana wam osesikolweni imali asebhenki. Manje ndiyakwazi ubhala, ayi mama ndiyakwazi ubhala. hambe uyonifakele imali, it's 1,100 rand. Babuye neslip uyifakele imali yakhona. Ngabona mase abantwana bathembakele la.
There's a lot of things. You are exposed to a lot of things in the night in Hillbrow. You will see things that you wouldn't see, you know. But there was gangsters. There was pizza boys. There was patchy boys. There was ninjas. You know, ninja was from downtown. And once you're in someone's territory, trouble. Now what you see on TV, they tell you mob thugs and what. For me, it's not from TV. It's things that you will see like this in real life. This particular Christmas Eve, sort of, this person said, like, come, I'm going to give you food, guys. So I followed, but I ended up following a wrong person. And there, I'm sure, I swear to you, they were going to nguma me. You know, so I went into this flat, I followed this person, and next minute when I got in there, they were locking the door, I got hit with an iron. You know, I think I only said 3 words, please God, help me. And through that, and I realized, you know what, actually he is God. And I said, you know, from now on, I would like to go to church. So there were circumstances where when I prayed, you know, there and then, earnestly, and, you know, the escape, it was very, wow, how did I escape from there? How did I manage it? I couldn't, they locked the door, but I managed to run, they grabbed the door, and they killed the same time, and I was gone. So from then I said, you know what, that's it. You know, there is God. Because when I pray for this, it happened.
However, escaping the dangers of the street often only leads to other threats, in particular, corrupt landlords who control the only affordable yet derelict accommodation.
The impact of homelessness on the Hillbrow community is overcrowding. Because there's literally lack of spaces for people to stay. In one flat, small 1-bedroom, 1-bachelor, you'll just find a room divider. 4 families will share the space. Children will sleep on the floor. Parents will sleep in the bed. So it's basically a problem of overcrowding. And with overcrowding, what also happened is that people started taking over buildings illegally, specifically dilapidated buildings.
The reality was that up to sort of early 2000s, the majority of the type of housing that we wanted to provide was controlled by slumlords. You know, slumlords who, at the extreme, are quite ruthless. You know, who were completely abusing tenants. You know, if you were a day behind in your rent, you just got kicked out, and there often weren't bathrooms and toilets. So we felt the best way to combat that was really just to provide good housing that's safe and secure and properly managed. Through various things that happen all at the same time, we established Medulla Mall as a non-profit organization. Medulla Mall is a Sesotho word which means communal living, and I think that describes quite accurately the type of housing that we provide. So we provide rental accommodation for the poor residents of the city.
Medulla Mall's motto from we started was that it's not about bricks and mortar. When we did the first project, we got so bogged down with architects and about this and about that, and our vision was to say, guys, it's about the people who's going to live here. So in most of the properties, and if you look at a property like BG Alexander, when we designed it around that feeling about it's the people that's going to stay here that's going to lift up this community. Medulla Mall's first project was the Europa Hotel, and it was a miracle project by itself.
Europa is quite a landmark in Johannesburg. It's on quite a busy street. Back in the day, in the 30s, it built as an Art Deco building, magnificent building. But unfortunately, in the 90s, one of the local councillors bought the building, and he turned it into a brothel.
Lots of child prostitution, lots of drug trafficking. Every now and then in a star you would find an article of somebody who was pushed off the roof because they didn't pay for their drugs. So it was a renowned building for all the wrong reasons. Let me say, when we started Europa, there was the whole model and idea was not only to look at housing. Our motto from day one was everybody can build, but it's about building communities that is quite different. And so when we did Europa, our vision was to make a serious impact in the community of Hillbrow. So when we started in Hillbrow, there was a lot of hijacked buildings. A whole lot of dilapidated buildings where there's no electricity, no security, no lifts are running, there's no water. People go down to the BP garage to go and, for the toilet. We go into those buildings and there's absolutely no dignity. Now that person that goes to work like that, he's got no place to shower, so obviously he will smell. Obviously he won't be that clean. And people will then react towards that. And so when we started with these buildings, we said we need to bring this primary need of somebody to have dignity back into community.
People have been praying to have a decent place to stay in. Hillbrow was dilapidated. The crime was very bad. The crime and the crime was very bad, and people are they believe in something. People believe in God. People believe in whatever they want to believe, and when they pray, they expect their prayers to be answered. And when they come here to Europa and they see something like this, then they believe that their answers have been answered.
A good example of that is one of the guys that we've got, he started up in a shelter. He was living on the street and we could give him a place in a shelter just to get him off the street. He then, because he was clean, because he could go to work on time, he got a promotion, he went to our transitional housing. He went into communal housing. He got a pay rise. He's now into one of our self-contained units. So he walked through this whole ladder, but it's because of you go to work in a different way. You meet and greet people in a different way because you've got an address. You've got a place. Somebody can send their post to you.
At the time I was working as a security, I was staying at El Cairo. So it's just a room. It is a communal room whereby you share the showers, you share the kitchen and the toilets. So when I got the promotion to be a house manager, then I moved to a 2-bedroom whereby the bathroom is inside. We also have the separate kitchen.
Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his position have increased in the land.
Broken buildings, broken communities and broken lives can seem impossible to fix. But as Mandla, Chris and Renid each focused on God's ability, not only were city blocks transformed, but more importantly, people's lives.
If you look at urban regeneration, they have these two concepts. One's called the sinkhole effect. It's where you have a bad project and it somehow sucks the life out of the buildings around it. And I think Europa in the late 90s, early 2000s was like that. It sucked the life out of Hillbrow. It really was a bad apple. But then there's another term now called a ripple pond effect, which is where you build something excellently and good and it starts having a ripple pond effect.
We came here, the city helped us with the eviction to get all the people out. When they moved out here, they took every piece of copper, every pipe. They took the lift motor. I don't know how they took a 3-ton lift motor down the stairs, but it was stripped to the core. But it was extremely filthy. The first day we got in here, I took a bunch of architects and QSs and stuff here to say, okay, so what are we going to do? What is it going to cost, etc. So we started to put this plan together. And I looked down, I had this light white pants on. And I looked down to my pants and it was black with lice. And I thought to myself, what did we start here, It took us 11 10-ton trucks just to take the garbage that was inside of this building, just to take that out. And some days you would come here and you would ask that question, God, am I doing the right thing here? Is this because you've got now the tender, but now you have to sort out the financing and you have to sort out how you're going to actually achieve this. And you must remember in that time, it's just not the normal plan. We had a shelter with transitional housing, communal housing, so you had to get the plans approved. People in the city planning department didn't understand what we are trying to do. And so a lot of questions were asked. And we had to stand fast and say, when we started this project, we felt